away we go, live.
We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, the Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love.
For over 85 years, the ministries of the Church of the Larger Fellowship have circled the globe and crossed the walls of prisons. We are a spiritual lifeline for our over 2,000 members in prison, who are also connected to individual Unitarian Universalists through our letter-writing ministry.
In our online community, we offer weekly worship, classes, and groups. Our monthly magazine, Quest, supports the spiritual lives of thousands around the globe. We know better than anyone how deep and meaningful connections can be formed even from a distance.
We are proud to be a leader in this faith movement, and we invite you to get involved in our ministry. We strive to be a place where anyone from anywhere can find spiritual refuge anytime they need it. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship.
We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism, known affectionately as The View.
The View is a weekly Unitarian Universalist talk show discussing important faith-based topics from an anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural perspective.
Since 2013, we have gathered every Thursday from September to June to welcome guests from around the world.
Our guests are writers, scholars, activists, and religious thought leaders who are shaping Unitarian Universalism and society for the 21st century and beyond.
We hope that today's show inspires you. We hope it builds your faith and gives you perspective to see the power of Unitarian Universalism at work in your life.
Welcome to The View. Hi, welcome everyone. I am back. I missed you all last week. I'm Aisha Hauser. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a brown-skinned woman with glasses, wild curly hair that is mostly black with some gray, and I'm wearing a keffiyeh, the symbol of freedom for the Palestinian people, and a shirt that says abolition is love. And today our topic is, how are we centering love? I am coming to you from the land of the Coast Salish people, also known as Seattle, Washington. And just fun fact, Chief Seattle did not like that the colonizers were naming a city after him because indigenous people do not name things after themselves the way white men do. And with that, Michael.
Greetings, beloved. I'm the Reverend Dr. Michael Tino, the other half of the lead ministry team of your Church of the Larger Fellowship, the congregation that brings you The View. My pronouns are they and them. I am a fat, white, dudish-looking person with almost no hair left on my head, wearing a purple hoodie sweatshirt and orange headphones. I am coming to you from Peekskill, New York, the land of the Kichwawan, Wappinger, and Munsee Lenape people just north of New York City. And I'm sure that Jan Peek, the Dutch explorer who took over the Kichwawan village on what is now called Ansville Creek and named the creek Peekskill, was perfectly happy having a community named for him because, well, he was a white dude. DC Fortune, how are you?
I am among the living today, which is an improvement over this past weekend. I'm Reverend DC Fortune. I am coming to you from the land of the Penobscot and Wabanaki councils here in beautiful central Maine on the banks of the Androscoggin River, where fantastically so much of this state is still, so much of the natural features of this state carry the names given to them by the native peoples, which is just a gift. And Yeah, I had a little bout with wannabe sepsis over the weekend, and it was kind of grim. Um, and I was disappointed to find that the local hospital named St. Mary's did not actually include nuns, because nuns, honestly, nuns in hospitals and nuns in teaching places are
Yes.
some of the most interesting people you could possibly talk with
I agree.
on this planet. They are among the first who were allowed any sort of individual freedom to get education and to travel. And yeah, anyway, no penguins. Which made me sad.
Did you request some?
I did. There were
Oh.
none.
Shucks.
You asked for nuns.
I did. I said, "Are there any nuns?" And they're like, "Yeah, no, we don't have any anymore." I don't want a priest. They're boring. But yeah. So so anyway, I'm back mostly among the living, and that feels good. Yeah, I'm glad to be here amongst other living people. Dante, how are you, dear?
Good morning, afternoon, everyone. I'm the Reverend Dante Hilliard, one half of your Learning Fellows team here in the Church of the Larger Fellowship. By the way, there's some activity and work happening here in my new apartment, so you may see a person floating behind me a
That was
couple
fun.
times. And
We did. That was fun.
that's just what it is because my office is not set up yet. I am here in the land of the Council of the Three Fires, made up of the Potawatomi, Ottawa, and the Ojibwe peoples, also known as Chicago, Illinois. And I'm doing okay. This has been a pretty good week. I'm finally sort of settling in after schlepping my stuff across the country.
So we are talking about how to center love today. I have ideas, as I always do. But I want to know, what are the ways we can, I think, center love both in our lives, and how do we do so politically? How do we center love in the public sphere? Because one of the things that I know is easy is to rail against what we hate. I know that is for me, like what I can make, but making the case for why we should center love, which is kind of wild that we still have to do that in 2025, but here we are, is really, really important that we actually be loud about what we love. So I'll wait for my 2 cents to hear from others, because mine might take us not off this topic, but it may take us sideways. So is how I do.
Well, and I'm also interested in, like, how do we course correct for ourselves and the people that we love? When we've drifted away from love as our guiding principle and we don't notice it. And I can like give away my entire weekly message from the CLF for next week, but like I'm just I have to do it for myself, right? I have to remind myself, and I rely on trusted people, right, to point me. Like Aisha and Dante and DC, you are 3 of the trusted people that I rely upon regularly to go, oh, beloved, like you like love is that way, and you're going this way. You need to you need to point yourself in a different direction. And
have people that tell you the truth. Yeah.
And like DC, you posted something on Facebook this week that like it didn't necessarily course correct me, but it reminded me, right? And it was about body shaming the president of the United States, who is a vile and despicable human being doing evil things, right? Like I want to make no bones. Make no bones about like he is doing evil things.
There's plenty to attack
killing
about
people.
That particular critter.
Right, and his neck waddle is a sacred part of his aging body.
Right.
I wouldn't go so far to say sacred, but legitimate. Like it's a reality. I mean, gravity happens to us all.
Amen.
It's also low hanging fruit. Go ahead, Dante. What?
I said, unless you live in space. I was just being silly.
I mean, that's true, but I kind of felt that way, and I want to appreciate Michael's post from, I don't even know when. I think it was still during the election when people were calling him a felon and like, oh, he shouldn't be president. Criticize him for every other way he is living his life, except having, been convicted of crime, because we are abolitionists. Abolition is love. So shifting that is super important. Saying, you know what, and that was my weekly message last week, quoting Meg Barnhouse. I believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, not every idea. So we can say he wants to turn this into a fully white power only country. That's a problem. I mean, with all the layers, doesn't give a shit about universal health care. There are tangible things about what he has wrought, him and his administration, let's be clear, it is never one person, that we need to reckon with. And I actually immediately, when I saw the neck shaming, I said, oh no, I'm a middle-aged woman and I got all sorts of things that are sagging. I don't want to listen.
Now, Aisha, I think I feel a little different about him being a felon.
Oh, say more.
Because I think it is very legitimate for people who have been oppressed and overly policed and overly criminalized, who can't even hold employment or get student loans to go to college, can't vote. But a person who has 34 felony convictions, let alone just like many people want, 34 of them, and sits at the highest office of the land. And I don't think that's a lack of love or dehumanizing him. That's the truth.
Thank you.
I mean, and my point in criticizing that was not to say we shouldn't say his repeated fraudulent business dealings don't point to something fundamentally dishonest about him, because I believe they do. But the fact that they led to a conviction, or 34, I mean, by the same jury in the same case, that particular part of the fact, isn't what should disqualify him. It's the fact that he engaged in fraudulent business dealings,
right?
Because so many people who engage in fraudulent business dealings are never charged, and are never convicted.
Particularly if they're rich, white, and male.
Right. And I know plenty of people who have been convicted of felonies who are honest, hardworking, like people that I trust, and like who would lead our country, and especially people who've been convicted because the system is unjust,
right?
Because of their identities and because of their social location, especially those people. But I know plenty of people who are felons, and I put that in air quotes for our podcast listeners, who have been convicted of felonies, who are trustworthy leaders. He's not one of them. He's not one of them for so many other things, right?
Yeah.
He's so many other reasons. So
I also wonder that I think one of the difficulties around thinking about love at the center, or centering love in all that we do and say, is, I think something we don't say enough is, you can't give something to other people that you cannot give to yourself. And I think so many of us have deep self-love, actually issues. I would say I think we have deep self-hatred issues and self-loathing issues that get in the way of loving ourselves. And if we can't love on ourselves, how in the hell are we going to love on other people?
No.
And then, I read a beautiful response to that, because and someone said, this is where community is so important, because sometimes our wounds are so deep that when we turn on ourselves from deep wounds, from emotional abuse and childhood, physical abuse, the whole list, that it's hard to love ourselves, not because we don't want to. So this is where, when we have systems of care in community and people who love us just the way we are. Shout out to K-pop Demon Hunters and that the imagery and the layers of what it means to love ourselves and love each other as we are with our brokenness and our wounds, right? So I agree. It's a yes and, because then when I read that piece where someone's like, but what if the wounds are so deep for someone, they're unable to love themselves, then we in relationship, and I mean friend, not necessarily, we put too much pressure on romantic relationships, but even platonic, friend, familial, chosen family, that is part of the collective healing and community that we can, I'm going to love you even if you don't love yourself. And with what's the word? Look, I don't want people to mistreat me, but I will love you. But if you're mistreating me, then that'll be a boundary in our relationship.
And I think that the traumas that have happened to us are all deep. I just don't, none of us escape childhood without some, I mean, just if everything else was equal and equitable in this fucking society, none of us would escape childhood without some kind of trauma. And then you add being part of multiple marginalized communities and da 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 da. So I'm not so sure it's about level of because that to me gets too close to oppression Olympic stuff. Like who's more traumatized, who's having a harder time self-loving. I think we all have a hard time self-loving because we are raised in the world, particularly if you're not a straight white man with money, that tells you that you're not worthy of love. So I'm not, and even they have problems loving themselves. Their behavior tells us that. So I don't think it's, and I don't mean it's like, oh, we're not going to love on you, but when we don't love on ourselves, I think we externalize stuff too much, and we don't get to the, when I am in a deep space of self-loathing, I can't receive love that people are offering me. Because I don't even know what to do with that. Because I don't know how to give it. Like, so there's that.
That's deep.
There's a both and. I have to get myself in a place to receive love, which means I have to be able to give, even if it's just a mustard seed amount to myself, in order to recognize the gift of love that you're offering. Because what I think is offering a love can feel very oppressive. To a person who's in a space of self-loathing.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Oof.
DC's been trying to say something.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. No. I think love takes practice, and to learn how to love sometimes means to learn how to love something else before we can love ourselves. How many people have we talked about, or have we heard about, or do we know about, who just were in a miserable space and then got something as simple as a kitten that unlocked this feeling that they were not prepared for of what it is to love something? And they learned how to do that. And it took a while to learn how to let others love them that same way. I think to get into the you can't love anyone else until you love yourself, I think that sets up a toxic cycle. When I know that when I was getting sober, I had no idea how to love. I didn't. And it was little things like that where I found a gift of a precious, just a moment of something that I was able to feel kindness towards another thing. That let me know that was possible and what it kind of felt like. And to do that allowed me to let others care for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that eventually grew into a place where I could care for myself.
Mm-hmm. So DC, again, I agree with you. I think that I'm the body is at the center of my theology. So I believe that most of what life is about rehearsing and practicing our values, right, and our visions for the world.
Hmm.
But I would say, you say I didn't know how to love, but you also in that same sentence you said you were in the process of getting sober. And
Hmm.
so part of me would say, well, putting yourself in a posture of sobriety feels like an act of self-love to me.
There was no virtue in me getting sober, baby. I was backed against the wall. It was the exact last option I had. I did not join a 12-step program out of any kind of virtue that I wanted to improve myself. It was the only place left on this planet that invited me back.
Hmm.
Okay? I got there out of desperation. I did not get people and people always say that they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky you got in so young." Blah 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 blah. I was like, I'd used up all my other chances at everything else. I'd used up all my other chances at everything else. Everywhere I'd gone, I'd gotten thrown out or told not to come back, or um, we don't do that here, or whatever. Right. So that was that one community that would put up with my bullshit long enough for me to start to become human. And I won't even say start to become human again because I didn't really know what being human was. Okay. Um, so there was no action of love to get me into that place. It was the one place that wouldn't throw me out.
And so there was a community
There was a
that
community that
that
taught.
that was all you had.
Hmm.
I
I
don't
didn't
want
like
to put
diversity.
I don't want to put you on the spot here, but like
Hmm.
there's a community that insists that they are going to hold you even when you don't want to be held, even when you don't,
Mhm.
like,
Piss
the
me off.
last fucking thing in the world, 1222 me, um the last thing in the world
Mm-hmm.
that you want, but they held you
Mm-hmm.
until you understood that you needed to be held,
Right.
until you understood that you could then practice holding yourself.
Right.
And this is like, so there was a community that recalibrated your compass. This is the metaphor I'm going with here, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like your compass was not pointing in the right direction.
The compass
It
was
was
spinning
like,
in
that's
fucking
right.
circles.
Right. And they went,
And then it got
Yeah.
stuck.
and they went,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
hold your needle. We're going to hold that needle in the compass and point it toward love
Right.
until we can let it go and it stays there.
Yeah.
Mm. Dante, I'm sorry I barked at you.
Oh
I'm
no, no,
sorry
no!
I
I didn't
interrupted.
feel like that was a bark. I was just. I think that in my lived experience, and I think even in my theoretical training, very few people would. I mean, most scholars would say that it's to be human is to live in. That's why we need community. We cannot be human
Need.
without being in
That's
community with
right.
other humans.
That's
Like
right.
Right.
that's impossible. And I think
That's
that seems to be a staple, even across all of our experiences and perspectives. And certainly, I know when I was deep in my self-loathing bag, community played a good part of it. But I also want to acknowledge that at some point, I had to make some choices
Mm.
to receive what it was and to pour into myself. Because I tell people, I became a born again Christian at 13. And I could tell you all the, and I was, I was already evangelizing. I got kicked out of school for holding Bible study and science class.
shut
We
up.
we we
Shut
had
up.
students receiving the Holy Ghost during lunch hour under the old oak tree in the football field. Like I was super, and at the same time, I did not love myself.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
I became a Christian, particularly Black Pentecostalism, because I was like, I may not be nothing, but I can channel God's power. The Holy Ghost can make me valuable. But I still
Okay.
didn't understand myself as, I only understood myself as valuable as a vehicle of the
Mhm.
Spirit.
Right.
And it took me a long time. Now again, I don't begrudge that journey because it has me where I am. But at some point, I had to also really be okay saying that is not what makes me powerful. That is not what makes me lovable. I am lovable because I am. I am lovable because now again, that's a journey.
Mhm.
And it's
Oh yeah.
definitely not overnight. But I think that yes, that we talk about individualism or communitarianism. Well, the truth is they you can't be separated, right? Because communities are groups of individuals, and it is
Right.
community that help us grow and learn or challenge us in particular ways. So I do think it's a combination, but I I think I say that a lot because I find it, as a person who's really, I call it recovery, a recovering self-loathing person, and a people pleaser, and what's that other word we talk about in 12 steps?
Codependent.
Codependent. Yes, a lot of my work has been, who are you? Are
Mhm.
you? I was doing a lot of things to validate myself because I hadn't learned how to validate myself for myself. So I may be fat, but I'm gonna be smart. I may be a little sissy, but I'm gonna read you down. Like I was doing all of these other things
Right.
to validate me because I had not discovered. And again, but that's practice, right?
Right.
but it took me much longer to be able to validate myself because I am,
Right.
without having to attach it to some system or some community or some conversation. Like it's taken me much longer to just say, I'm beautiful because I say I am. I'm brilliant because I honor it. If no one else honors my brilliance, I will honor it. And I think
Right.
that's a much longer journey. And I think when we find ourselves in those spaces, at least in my experience, it has given me expansiveness to then pour that back onto other people in a way that I couldn't before.
I think the question from thank you everybody. This is super helpful. I think, and I agree, there's a lot of chat in our, Nicole said, loving someone isn't often the thing that helps them heal. Love is never enough. I'd still be married if it was. It's never, never enough. And so it is a combination of being able to show up in the fullness of who you are. And yes, loving ourselves, um, and community. And I think loving ourselves absent of community is also problematic. If I may I shift right now for a second because I want to
Mm.
kind of expand this to what does this look like meta. There's a podcast by two white women named I've had it or something. They're two white women from Oklahoma who are probably one of them is left of me. She's the one who called our current president Kenkel's McTaco tits. So Kenkel's McTaco tits. Okay. She's been interviewing politicians and she had Cory Booker on. It's two of them, Cory Booker on last week. When I tell you she should win a Pulitzer Prize, that podcast, because love in the public sphere, as Cornel West said, justice is what love looks like in public. And she said to him, she said, look, you took a picture with a war criminal. She was talking about Netanyahu after your 25 hours, it negated that 25 hours. And he kept it from Jersey. I'm from Jersey. I knew one of my classmates from Rutgers worked on his campaign when he ran for mayor of Newark. So I've known Cory Booker a very long time, not personally, but enough to know he is incredibly off-putting and incredibly disingenuous and two-faced. And okay, so she said to him, he said, well, I don't take PAC money. She said, you take APAC money. He's like, oh, minuscule, $800,000. But the point being, she wouldn't let him off the hook. How he was trying to I don't know what his team told him about this podcast, but they're like that with every politician. Like somebody running for the governor of Georgia, she's like, you take APAC money? Why are you're against guns in schools, but you're okay with children being genocided? I mean, they are relentless. They are.
Well, and he also hasn't met a pharmaceutical company he won't take money from either. So
listen. But that, to me, when I heard them, these two white women from Oklahoma who very much are in the middle of a sea of evangelical conservatives are able to take somebody like Cory Booker and not be afraid to say, what you're doing is wrong. You are taking pictures with a war criminal. You're taking money from people who support genocide and eradication of people. That is what love looks like in public. And that is what we need more of.
And Cory Booker is a senator, right? He's a United States senator. He's one of 100 people in one of our legislative bodies. He has power in this country, right? And so what love looks like directed at people with power,
that's right,
is very different than what love looks like directed at people without power, right? And like speaking truth to power can be done directly and lovingly, and it's necessary to do that, right? Especially if I know Cory Booker's a weasel, but he's a weasel who actually professes things that we might actually agree with. So, like, maybe he's bendable, right? Maybe his moral compass.
I would have thought so one day. I don't think now, but maybe he would have been years ago. I don't think he is anymore. I mean, to raise anyway. But the question for us right now is how to be unapologetically centered in our values. Like Ta-Nehisi Coates talking that to fucking Ezra Klein. Fuck Ezra Klein. You can send this to him. He doesn't give a shit what I think. But if anybody knows him, tell him I said fuck you. Ezra Klein and Ta-Nehisi Coates had an interview in the last few weeks. And God bless Ta-Nehisi Coates. Because he's clear in his... And Ezra Klein, this is what I came away from. And I affirm his humanity and I still say fuck you to Ezra Klein. He is stuck in 2016. He still can't believe Hillary lost. Like, he's in a time warp of, oh my God, the world is not the way I want it to be. And I want to just have social justice be a thought process so I could write think pieces for it and be able to sound smart. And Ta-Nehisi Coates is talking about life and death and genocide and justice. And he's when Ta-Nehisi Coates said something about love killed Martin Luther King, like Martin Luther King trying to stand up for justice, got him murdered. And Ezra Klein's like, this Buddhist meditation. And even he said that was a weird place to take it. Sure as shit was, buddy. What are you talking about? Okay, I'm going to stop talking. So I'm going off the rails now.
So here in Maine, we just had an interesting thing happen. Our governor, I can say our governor now, Janet Mills, as we say, tough as a bag of hammers. Jesus. I knew her when she was a DA and I was a reporter. And then she went on to be the attorney general. And now she's the governor. And she just announced a bid to run against Susan Collins. She and about 50 other people. So the problem is, she's 76 years old. And there are a number of, and she's the darling of the Hillary Democrats, right? She's the darling of the machine, of the progressives who call themselves a progressive moderate or a moderate progressive, whatever the fuck that means. And it was interesting. She announced on Facebook yesterday, well, she announced everywhere yesterday, but on one of her Facebook posts, the first 1,000 comments were, please, Janet, don't.
It's not a good idea.
Please, Janet, don't. You're a great governor. We like you. You kicked Trump in the nuts. Fabulous. Good for you. And we've got this other guy that we want to do that. We've got enough septuagenarians and octogenarians in the Senate. We've got a young guy who's really gung-ho for it, who is super, super popular, like endorsed by Bernie, like hits all of the real progressive sort of targets. And what's fascinating is I haven't seen a bunch of vitriol saying, terrible things about Janet Mills, which, I mean, any politician has people who can say terrible things about them. Yeah, Darby Lockridge says Grant Plattner is such a great candidate, and he's trying to be nice about her announcement, but he's too easy to read. Yeah, I mean he's a military vet and an oyster farmer on the coast of Maine, but it's fascinating to me that it's not the circular firing squad that we normally see on the Democratic side. It's just interesting. Oh, and I need to mention something, and this is a little close to home here. This weekend is the 2-year anniversary of that god-awful shooting at the bowling alley here in Lewiston. And so this entire community is just sort of, reliving that grief and on tenterhooks and how do we center love amidst all of this pain and confusion and posturing and all of that stuff?
The thing that gives me hope in Maine is that Maine voters have a notorious distaste for people supported by outside money.
We totally do. We also have ranked choice voting.
Right. So, that's what gives me hope there. If she becomes the outside money candidate,
she's cooked.
But there was a comedian I saw a video of who introduced Zoran Mondani, who's the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City in the election this fall. Gianmarco Soresi, an Italian Jewish comedian, as part of his introduction, which was like part political speech and part stand-up comedy act, he said, "I haven't felt this sure that the Democrat was going to win an election since 2016."
Oh, ouch!
Ow!
Ow!
And everybody in the room, it was like,
no.
And he's like, and that's why we have to keep working hard.
That's right. That's a very good.
I need a moment to catch my breath. Holy shit.
Also, let's give a shout out to Samuel Kingi from Kenya. Is this our first person to watch live from Kenya? Hello, this is so exciting.
Welcome, Samuel.
So while we're talking politics, let's talk about the Democrats.
Yes.
Because if we're going to talk about centering love, and I think this is a thing that people are really confused about. Number one, Bell Hooks says that love and care are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important separation because a lot of us were raised in homes where we were told, I paid the bills, I kept food in the refrigerator. Like those are things that they may be nurturing, there may be caring things, they may be things that sustain you, but that you can do that without loving someone, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not the same. But I think, I speak for myself, and I think a lot of my friend circle, the frustration with the Democratic Party writ large is what they love is not the people.
Oh.
Because if you love the people, you would, well, but that's not how we do things. We're decorum has gone out the fucking
That's right.
You're still trying to play, like, I think a lot of the critiques of Biden, I can't really get with, because I'm like, as one of those people who was oppressed by hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans, who got debt relief, I will always hold Joseph Robinette Biden high for me, because that's a life-changing reality for many of us who had those high student loan debts. But of the thing that I think I can hold for him critically is an unwillingness to accept that you have to change your strategy because we're in a new context.
Mm.
And when you love the people, you change your strategy.
Yes.
Even if you take a political hit for it, because you know it's what is needed.
That's right.
Mm.
That's
And
right.
I feel like the National Democratic Party has been more concerned about the optics of their choices rather than the impact of the choices.
Oh, I think it's worse than that. I think you're being generous. I think they're very happy with fascism light. I don't think it's worse than, if it was just the optics, I could actually not hate that as much as what it really is. They actually they want to go back to pre-2016, which is never going to happen. I mean, at this point, that ship has sailed. But I think the Democrats have shown themselves to be even more insidious. To keep running Cuomo in New York City when so supposedly it was vote blue no matter who, except when it's Zohar Mamdani. When it's Mamdani, it's like, no, not that blue. So you're full of shit. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, but I don't disagree with you, but I think part of this is our fault.
Say more.
Because we have left too much up to representative governance. Right? Because ultimately these people are supposed to represent us. And we have allowed certain kinds of behaviors. Like centrism isn't new in the Democratic Party. It's always been bullshit. Even when the only reason the Republicans hated the Clintons was because the Clintons out-republiced the Republicans.
That's right.
They had the big money, they had the big and they hated that shit. That's why they hate the Clintons. They didn't hate the Clinton policies. They didn't like the Clintons because the Clintons beat them at their own game.
That's right.
So again, Barack Obama wasn't great, but he was a centrist. Like, I didn't expect him to come in knocking shit over, turning over money tables. I knew that wasn't going to happen. People was like, he used drones in the war. I said, he promised to bring troops home. He didn't promise he wasn't going to kill people.
Right.
Now, you can object to the killing of the people, but you can't call him a liar. He didn't say, I'm not going to wage war. He never promised that. He said he would bring the troops home. And he did what he promised he would do. So, but centrists are only going to do centrist shit. And I think for too long, we have abdicated too much power. First of all, again, at the local level, which is why our national politics sucks. Right? Because if we were more invested in loving our communities, showing up, being active in our local communities, our national politics would look very differently.
You think that's starting to happen? I mean, shout out to Portland and the emergency naked bike ride. Emergency naked bike ride.
And the frogs.
And the frogs.
Oh my God. The plague of frogs. Oh my God. So much fun.
The chicken, the T-Rex, and me. The night show. What is it? What's the Late Show? Did a beautiful segment with Kermit the Frog, the leader of the frog resistance. So do you think it's happening now? I do think part of, I think, and I see it here in Seattle in my neighborhood. I mean, there's literally sidewalk chalk everywhere. No kings. Now is the time for you to show off your country. I've never seen that before. I've lived here since 2013, and this is a liberal city. I put that in quotes. But I think it's changing. I think now people are realizing no one's coming to save us. We are it.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people understood no one was actually coming to save us, but we also have to be really clear. Most people are working poor, right? And below. And it's very hard to be an engaged citizen when you work 3 jobs, you're in school, you're raising children, a family the way we operate isn't designed to work for the average person. But I do think if we love ourselves as community, we need to do the things that we do. Like, we need to make decisions about what Congress gets paid. We need to insist on term limits for Congress. We need to insist that if you gonna give us shitty health care, you got to use the same shitty health care you're gonna give us.
That's right.
If you're gonna cut our money, we're gonna cut your money too. We can. There are mechanisms by which we, as the people, can impact the larger picture. But again, I acknowledge it's complicated because most folks are so busy trying to survive that feels like a luxury. But unfortunately, I don't think it is.
And the Supreme Court's about to gut the Voting Rights Act, make it go away. Because apparently that's another grudge they've held.
And so there's been this generational love of top-down institutions, right? That's been driving this. We want the president to fix it because we believe in like we and I don't know who we is anymore, but like there's a belief in that institutions can be fixed from the top down. No. And I think that there's growing understanding that that's bullshit. Right? I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that that's why like we look to the president to fix things. And I think that the Republicans have latched onto that same disenchantment with institutionalism to break shit. But what they're breaking are the things that are actually like keeping us alive and keeping us educated and keeping us healthy. They're not breaking the things that are killing us. Right? But the answer is not, well, we need to just fix all those big institutions. The answer has to be some sort of grassroots, ground up, community-based movement.
Yeah,
it has to be more frogs, and not
I think that
a kinder, gentler ice. It can't be a kinder, gentler ice. It has to be more frogs.
But I do think
I need to write that down. Hang on.
A very complicated relationship with hierarchy, because I think people who are marginalized understand how power works. So as a person who was a DEI professional for almost 20 years, I was like, I'm sick of this shit. You're gonna pay me a couple $100 a year to do something with no power and few resources, that if the president of this institution says blah, 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 that shit gonna happen. Because when the president says every department cut your budget by 10%, you're gonna bitch, you're gonna moan, you're gonna complain, and at the end of the day, you're gonna fucking cut that 10% out of your budget. But I, the person with not that much power, is about trying to, who is a peer or below other people, my job is to course correct them in their understanding of power and justice and equity. I have no incentives to offer. I have no power. That's why DEI positions are never at the C level, very rarely, because they never want you to have decision-making power. You're supposed to lead by persuasion. That's bullshit. Right. Because if you really wanted it, you would use your institutional power. And that's my problem, is like, I don't think hierarchy is the answer to everything, but you can accomplish some things in a hierarchy if you know, just like privileges, right? If you use your power in a particular way, and people are choosing not to use it. So I think that's part of the disappointment in hierarchical systems, not because we think they're the best systems, but we know that, but if you're in a hierarchical system and you're the person with power, there is some shit you can do if you have the will to do it.
That's right.
And I think that's the problem.
And the Democrats haven't had the spine to do it.
You know, this whole the redistricting thing, this is the biggest, most gutsy fucking thing they've done in a long time. I don't know if it's gonna really how it's gonna pan out, but they hadn't even threatened to do no shit like
in California. In California, you mean?
You know the whole thing. Yeah, where they were like, when Trump
it's gonna be on the ballot.
Five seats in Georgia, and they was like, okay, find them seats if you want to.
It's on the ballot, I believe, right? In California, they're gonna vote on it. I mean,
Yeah, but
Gavin
that's what I'm saying.
Newsom,
That's the gutsiest thing they've done.
that's the
I
gutsiest
think
thing.
in my lifetime.
And Gavin Newsom's still an idiot.
Oh, he's terrible, but he's what we need right now. But he shouldn't be president. And people get pissed when I say that, but I'm like, he is
No
trans,
way.
trans people under the bus, but he's useful right now.
I think his social media director should be president.
Yes, I think
Because
they're
she's
young
like
adult.
a 29-year-old Latina.
Absolutely.
So she should be president.
I agree.
Yeah, that's my problem with the hierarchical thing. It's like, I know what it's like to have power in a system.
That's right.
And you have to make a choice. Are you interested in holding on to your seat of power? Or are you interested in using your power for transformative purposes? And I remember when they made me an interim director. So I didn't even know if I was going to get the full-time gig. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to reign in this motherfucker like I'm already full-time. And if they don't like it, okay. But at least I used this opportunity to live into my vision and values around how this area should function. And it worked out, and I did become the full-time person. But I was very clear that they be like, oh, he doing too damn much. But at least I did it when I had the chance.
Sure. That's right. That's right. No, I think there is still fear to bring change that will significantly transform any given system, because I'm gonna go all the way back, because Reconstruction failed and we have not had any kind of reparation. So we still operate on a system of extraction and taking advantage of people. And that's why we don't have universal health care. We have a really lively chat.
This is fabulous.
And it's really great. And Nicole lives in California, Darby's in Texas, and they're talking about their states. Well, Republicans count on Democrats playing by the rules. Democrats are also stuck. People like Nancy Pelosi and Schumer and a bunch of people are stuck in this idea of you can bargain away. But the problem is they have always bargained away people's rights. Always. They've not stood fast in saying we are not going to compromise people's rights away. That's why centrism is garbage, and it's just a tool of white supremacy, frankly.
Now, I also just want to say, as much as I love this high political conversation, I feel like we've let institutional religion off the hook in this conversation. And for me, which is at the heart of my dissertation right now, is one of my problems is I feel like religious institutions have not just dropped the ball, we've screwed the pooch. Because I think one of the biggest transformative change vehicles we have at our disposal, which is worship, we undervalue. Because to go back to an early part of our conversation, DC, I do believe that life is about embodied reality. Worship is supposed to be about us practicing, rehearsing, embodying our vision of the world and our values on a consistent basis, over and over. Not because we're perfect, not because we got it together, not because that's why it's called fucking practice.
That's right.
And if every religious institution, ethical society, whatever the fuck you call yourself, if you are actually practicing what you preach, if you're approaching worship or gathering with that fervor, with that value, we would not be in this world that we currently live in. So as much as I know the political system is fucked up, I think religious institutions have failed their people and they have failed this country, because I don't think we actually believe we can change the world through worship. So worship becomes this activity. It's cute, it's fun, it's social hour, it's a lot of things. It's community building, and there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But I don't think we are harnessing the power of worship to actually transform communities.
Which kind of brings us full circle to where we started, right? At the beginning of the hour, in centering love. Because the act of centering love, the practice of recalibrating our compasses towards love, the communal practice of doing that is a radical transformative act, right? And if we're not doing that,
Yeah.
Right? If that's not what worship is about, if that's not what religious institutions are about, then shame on us.
Yeah.
Right? Shame on us if that's not what it's about. We have to be about that radical transformative act of practicing love together.
Otherwise, what are we doing? Yeah.
Otherwise, we are like, what the fuck? What the fuck are we good for?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
I take it. I mean, I'm a true believer in worship. If you want to talk to me about theologians and systematics, but you can't talk to me about the power of worship, I'm not interested because I'm about what can we do, and worship is the most powerful theology we have. How we worship is our theology.
One of the things we need to have Anthony Pinn back, who's a theologian and a professor at Rice, but he talked about how, like, what is the charge we're giving people in worship? What are, as Unitarian Universalists, what are we charging people with? What, how are we giving them food for thought and action? What is the charge? I don't always do that. I probably mostly don't do that, but I try. Like, it is something that that's what's coming up for me, Dante, as you're talking, is like, it is so powerful, and it plants the seeds of connection, and you're not alone, and we are thinking about these things and wanting to be radical in I forget how radical a notion abolition is, because I'm in the abolition bubble. I'm in the Miriam Kaba bubble. I'm in the, and then I say to somebody who's not a UU, and they're like, what now? I'm sorry. So yeah, I thank you for that.
And what, one of the things he said on The View so long ago was that he wished churches would ask, that religious institutions would ask, how are we making the people who show up and worship better people by being there?
Yeah.
Right. And he's humanist, right? So that's like the language he used. But how do we make people better people? How do we make people more equipped to practice love in their lives and in their community? How do we equip them to live our theology?
That's right.
And I think it is how we worship and what our liturgy looks like, because whether you are a humanist or a mystic, whether you are a theist or an atheist, science and spiritual traditions both teach us that how we use our body shapes our chemistry, our ability to imagine, and it transforms us both in physical, and if you believe in the metaphysical ways. So there's no losing here for no matter what if we practice what we claim we believe.
Preach. I learned yesterday that stress impacts blood sugar, which should be like duh, but I didn't know. I thought it was just sugar impacts blood. I sound more naive than I am, but I'm like, stress.
Yeah.
Oh no. So that sucks. But yes, it is all embodiment. Like the idea that me feeling stressed about something impacts the physical cells in my body.
Yeah.
Intellectually, I knew it. But then when I heard it from a doctor, I'm like, oh, that's
well, and it goes back to that whole notion of rest as like radical
Trisha Hersey
love for the world, right? Like if you resting your body has impact.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Radical.
And Deborah Pope Lance, who says if it doesn't feel indulgent, it's not self-care, it's just maintenance. If it doesn't feel indulgent, well, I took a nap. And I could do so much work. Okay, no, that was maintenance.
Right. Yeah. Because Hersey
filling
says,
the tank with new gas is not self-care. Getting a detail job, that's self-care, right? Like actually doing the feet up and bonbons thing is luxurious and self-care. And that's different than just, and we need it. We need it, like that guy I won't mention who talked about during the HIV crisis, during the AIDS crisis. We grieved in the morning, we organized at noon, and at night we danced. Right?
Yes. And on that note, at night we dance. What a rich and beautiful conversation. I'm
This
really
was amazing.
I love you all so
This was
much.
amazing. Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much. Ugh.
And thank you to those who were here live, who
Yes.
participated in the live chat, and to those of you who are listening to the podcast who can interact with us live and come to our worship, clfuu.org/worship, to find out more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we remove the stigma from the idea of indulgence?
Please.
That sounds like a whole show right there.
Whole show.
Yeah. Let's do it
Thank
sometime.
you all. See you next
All right.
week.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. Special thanks to everyone who gives generously to this ministry. It is because of you that this ministry is possible.
Visit clfuu.org/give to make a contribution.
We hope you will join us next week for another episode of the Voices of Unitarian Universalism.